Shalom, everybody. Rabbi Edelstein here with a short Torah thought sponsored by MEOR, Washington, D.C. MEORDC.com is our website. Have a look and learn about the programs we offer in Washington, including the Maimonides Jewish Leaders Fellowship on the campus of GW University. Well, this week's Torah portion is known as Re'eh in the Book of Devarim, the fifth book of the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, continues reviewing with the Jewish people many of the most important commandments and laws of the Torah before that generation will enter the land of Israel. Included in this week's Torah portion is a review of the laws of kashrut, keeping kosher, which animals are permitted, which are forbidden. And in that section also, Moshe talks about the way of bringing offerings in the temple in Jerusalem, the fact that animal offerings have to be brought in the temple in Jerusalem. You can't bring one in your backyard, don't try it. It has to be in the holy place in Jerusalem. And in that section of discussing bringing offerings, Moshe Rabbeinu talks about after they're slaughtered properly. Actually, before I get to the main point, let me just tell you, Moshe alludes to the idea of slaughtering animals properly, but doesn't detail any laws. What the verse says, interestingly, is, you shall slaughter the animals as I've commanded you. But nowhere in the 5 books of Moses do you find any description of how to slaughter the animals. What's going on? It's in the oral law, Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral tradition that complements the written words of the Torah. God taught Moshe the verses, the words of the Torah, all the laws, but the elaboration and elucidation of the details of every commandment, of every verse, was taught to Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the oral law. Now it's written down in the form of the Talmud. So there's a lot of material in the Talmud about how to ritually slaughter the animal. That's called shechita, to make it fit for consumption, but it's only alluded to here. But here's the main point. I'm going to get to the main point right now. In that section of bringing the offerings and slaughtering them, Moshe reminds the Jewish people something the Torah commands in many places, not to eat the blood of the animal. You can eat the meat after it's slaughtered properly, but you can't eat the blood. By the way, that's why there are many laws in the oral tradition of how to rid the meat of blood by soaking it and salting it and so on. But what's interesting about the verse here is Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't just say don't eat the blood. He says, Rak chazak levilti achol adam. Only strengthen yourselves, Jewish people. Be strong not to eat the blood. That's kind of strange. Do we need to strengthen ourselves to refrain from eating blood? I don't want to pass any judgment. I'm a non-judgmental guy, but most people are rather repulsed by eating blood. You don't have to go against your inclination and not eat the blood. So what's the Torah doing by saying that? Rashi, the great commentator, quotes Ben Azai, a Talmudic sage, who picks up on the language of this verse and tells us the Torah is teaching us something important. If by an easy commandment to keep, like not eating blood, the Torah felt the need to say chazak, be strong, we have to learn from there all the more so to many of the other commandments of the Torah, which really might require great strengthening, meaning overcoming our natural inclination in order to keep those commandments or refrain from the prohibited activities. So that's why the Torah says chazak. If by an easy commandment, there's still, I guess, some element to strengthen ourselves to do it or not to do it, all the more so by many, many other commandments which really do, in a more obvious way, require strengthening ourselves. When our body or our passions might lead us in a certain direction, we might be naturally tempted to do this or eat that or whatever, and the Torah says, don't do that. It requires strengthening in order to grab on and follow that commandment. Why do mitzvot require strengthening? Well, even though it's true, we have a holy soul. Every one of us has a neshama, a holy soul, and it wants to connect to God, to its source, its creator. But we're put in a physical body in a physical world. That was God's plan. And the physical body can be lazy and can be heavy and can be drawn to all sorts of things that might not really be good for us, which we even know, our higher selves know, that they're not good for us often. So therefore, there's often a bit of a tug of war between the soul and its desires and the body and its desires. So the Torah says, strengthen yourselves to grab onto every mitzvah. Every mitzvah. What's a mitzvah? We say, I know in Hebrew school you learn good deed. Doesn't mean good deed. It means a commandment. But the root of the word mitzvah in Hebrew, the shoresh, the root means to join or connect. A mitzvah is an action or a thought or an emotional direction that God gives us that's meant to connect us to Him, to connect us in this physical world to Him, the source of our being, the source of our existence, to elevate us in this physical world, to bring holiness, kedusha, into this physical world. That's what every mitzvah is. It's a precious connector, but it requires strengthening. We have to sometimes go against our lower selves, our inclinations. Anything important in life requires energy and effort and usually strength to acquire. Whether it's walking on the treadmill and getting the exercise you need, or gaining the degree that you have it in you to achieve, you have to strengthen yourself against momentary distractions and temptations and inclinations that your higher self knows are not the right thing to do. So the Torah tells us in this verse about blood, strengthen yourself. The truth is, sometimes people have strange inclinations, and the Torah is aware of that. So there are people out there who might be tempted sometimes to eat the blood. I don't mean to dismiss that out of hand, but the basic lesson Ben Azai and Rashi quotes is teaching us is that all the mitzvot, to some extent, some more than others, require strengthening, to strengthen the neshama, or to strengthen the part of us that wants to follow our soul, to go against the sometimes unholy desires of the body. The Torah doesn't deny the body what it needs. It just wants to elevate us and refine our desires and connect us to God. Chazak, chazak, be strong. Grab onto mitzvot. Everyone is precious. Everyone will delight you in this world if you get into the spirit of it. And certainly in the next world, your neshama will have eternal life from each and every mitzvah. Shabbat shalom.